What is your name?
My name is Virginia Lee McNeil Padgett.
When and where were you born?
I was born in McDowell County, March the 31st. In 1928, there was a hospital up there on Main Street, straight across from Hotel James, and that's where I was born.
Tell me about your father's work before Marion Machine.
When my father worked in the mines in Yancey County, he drove what they called the SPAC cars that carried the mica out of the mines to the building where they had women that sheeted the mica.
Your mom did that type of work also.
My mother sheeted the mica. They lived at Big Crabtree.
Where is Big Crabtree?
It's down about 3 miles down from Little Switzerland. It was a thriving little town when they lived there.
When did your father start Marion Machine?
He started Marion Machine in January in 1932.
How did your father decide to go into that business?
I have no idea. I know that he bought a welding machine, and people that needed welding came to get him to weld. The first building he was in is where the fire department building is on West Court Street.
Where did your family live at that time?
We lived, when he started there, we lived on West Court Street, probably a couple years, and then he bought a home. It's called Maple Avenue now. It used to be called Maple Hall. And when I was 9 years old, we moved into town on South Garden Street.
What was it like growing up as a little girl in Marion?
I have very happy memories from growing up in Marion. I really do. I had some friends. First Christmas we were in town, I got a pair of roller skates. And I love to ride or roller skate on the streets in town. And then I learned to ride a bicycle and went through a fence there in the back lot and landed down on West Henderson Street, skin all to pieces.
Was there a skating rink in town?
At that time, there was a skating rink in the bottom of the community building.
Did it cost anything to skate?
15 cents.
Did you ever go to the movies back then?
Oh, yes. Every Saturday, they had what they called series. They ran for 12 weeks. And once it stopped, we went to what on Main Street, which was called the Rat Hole.
Why was it called the Rat Hole?
Because there was rats in there.
Going back to your father, can you tell me about some of the projects that you worked on over the years that stand out to you?
I don't remember when he rebuilt the lay, but in 1934, he did buy a second welding machine, and he worked with road contractors, which was Nello Tier, Blythe Brothers, I can't remember the other. He kept their equipment up when they were building the road from the top of Buck Creek Gap to the top of Mount Mitchell.
What do we call that road today?
It's the parkway, part of the parkway. And at the time, they let the traffic up once it was built. And in the afternoon, they let the traffic back down because it was a one-way road.
Your father ended up designing a piece of equipment that is used every day in every community now, and is very innovative at that time.
Yes, it was.
Can you tell me about the front-end loader?
Well, the front-end loader, someone come in, and I have no idea who, and they described what they wanted. Dad had a man that could draw blueprints. His name was Edison Westall. And once the blueprints was drawn, my daddy set into building it, and it was put on a trunk. It was considered a front-end loader, but I don't remember the year.
How did he build his equipment?
He would find out that companies was going out of business or they were putting in new machinery, and he and my brother would go up north and buy the salvaged equipment and have it hauled back to Marion Machine Company, and he would totally rebuild it and used it in his work.
Would you tell me about projects your father worked on for the military?
Well, in 1940, the late 43, a group of men came from Oak Ridge. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was about 3 or 4 of them, and they were looking his machine shop over. They had no conversations. He had no idea who they were or what they were. And in about 6 months, they came back and said, "Mr. McNeil, we have looked into your past, and you do have top security. We want to take you to Oak Ridge, Tennessee. We have a thing that's going on that's going to be called the Manhattan Project. And we want you to go over there and take a look at it." He did, and they give him the drawings or the blueprints, and he built what they call the firing pin that went into the little boy bomb. And Dad still had no idea what it consisted of until the real bomb, they built the real bomb and the firing pin from his design that he built at Marion Machine Company.
Virginia, can you tell me what we're looking at today?
You're looking at what is considered the firing pin or a projectile. It is a dummy shell that the real one was built by at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, that helped in the war. Mr. Roach said the inside of the real one was filled with plutonium. And it's something that will explode. And this was the detonator inside of the little boy. Dad had a wonderful mechanical mind.
How long did your dad run Marion Machine?
50 years.
How often did your dad go to town?
Every 4 years when it was time to vote.
But other than that?
Other than that, he was never on Main Street.
Virginia, I'd like to shift a little bit and talk about you now. How did you meet your husband?
Well, when I was a teenager growing up, we had a little restaurant. There was Gladden's there on Main Street and one on West Henderson Street where Fred Coates' office is. It was called the Red Pig. That's where teenagers met each other, and that's where I met Bill Padgett.
What age were you two when you got married?
18.
Tell me about building homes with your husband.
Well, the first home that we built, we were living in a house behind my dad's house that he owned. And his dad gave him an acre of land on Roby Conley Road. And he would walk, because we had no vehicle, and go up by where the Harvest Drive-In is, through the woods over into Roby Conley Road. He built a 4-roomed house, 2 finished, 2 unfinished, had a well dug, and that was my first home. I had 1 child, 2 years old, and 1 child that was 4 months old.
Which of your children was the oldest?
My daughter.
What did your son do for the Harvest Drive-In?
He was a car hop. Well, the Harvest Drive-In at one time was out there where Pat Woody's chair shop is. And the drive-in part, when you ordered, the speakers was on the opposite side of the road. They built a little walkway under the road by the creek to carry the food up there. And then Jim Lancaster moved from there to where is at on 70 down there. Been there many a time.
Where did you work?
I worked at American Thread. I was what they call a bias tape winder.
Was it a busy place?
Oh, yes. Garner Holman tried to teach me how to wind the bias tape. Standing behind me, I said, please leave me alone and let me learn my own way.
What is one thing you would like people to remember about you?
My family came first. I enjoyed working with my husband. After we built our first home, we built 4 more. I'm very proud of my children. My daughter married at 18 because her husband went into the military. But in later years, she decided she wanted to further her education. And she enrolled in Bentley College. And she was working at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, in the secretary pool. She also had top security. And she has her master's degree now. She is a sales director of marketing for Garden Estate in Temple, Texas. Our son lost his life when he was 17 in a car wreck. But I feel had he lived, he would have been very much like his father. He would have stayed in McDowell County. Now my daughter, she has traveled practically all over the world following her husband. And they have 1 child, Stephanie Edgren. And Stephanie married a farmer when she was 30 and located in Oskaloosa, Iowa. And she has 1 son who is John Michael.
Can you tell me about John Michael?
He's precious. I consider him the love of my life. He's 13 now. He helps his dad when he's not in school. He's been driving an old Toyota truck since he was 10 years old. His dad had to go back and take the farm over because his dad got disabled. And Eric was a corporate pilot. And Stephanie met him in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. When they got married, she settled up in Iowa, and he is teaching John Michael to fly. He wants to get his license, pilot's license, when he turns 16.
If you had advice for a young person today, what would that be?
Respect and honor your parents. And let your word be your bond.
Mrs. Padgett, thank you for letting me interview you today.
Thank you for letting me do it. I absolutely have the greatest respect for my parents because they taught me morals and to have respect for other people, which I tried to teach to my own children.